I'm really delighted to be joined for this fireside chat by Baroness Neville-Rolfe, Minister of State in the Cabinet Office, a member of the House of Lords, and you have had extensive experience in Parliament and the civil service and business more widely. And we're going to be talking against the backdrop of the Procurement Act, which you have been very instrumental in getting through. Greg has very kindly brought me back the Slido, but I'm afraid this is going to be a short and sparky fireside chat, and I don't think we'll get round to that. But look, the UK public sector spends £300 billion annually on third-party suppliers, so it's absolutely vital that we're getting the best value from those. And innovation-friendly procurement is not only key to growing the UK's innovation economy, it's been part of the government's efforts to diversify our supply chains while also growing our SME base. Now, I've mentioned the Procurement Act, which you got through Parliament late last year. You yourself have a long-standing commitment to ensuring that SMEs get a larger part of the UK's economic pie. I just put in a quick plug for the work that the Catapult has done alongside the Cabinet Office to help shape the new public procurement landscape, to help drive innovation, and the Innovation Procurement Empowerment Centre that we have established to help public sector bodies to use the new legislation in creative and strategic ways. I have a few questions for you, and I really want to start by just asking a general question: why supporting SMEs and diversifying our local supply chains is critical to the UK's innovation economy and wider prosperity and productivity?
Catherine, thank you, and thank you for that summary. And of course, we have an enormous number of SMEs in this country, I think 5.5 million, and they have been a huge driver for innovation across my career, which has been in business and in government. And so and as a former businesswoman of big companies and small companies, I'm very, very keen to give more of the procurement pie to the SMEs. And indeed, sort of cut red tape and other things for the SMEs. We will have heard the Prime Minister earlier this week talking about that. And what we've done with the Procurement Act, which I think is a sort of major generational change, is to put SMEs much more at the heart of public procurement by allowing the public sector to actually have a duty on all contracting authorities to think about SMEs, which they haven't done nearly enough, because one of the key barriers if you're an SME is getting a look in at all as compared to the bigger companies who know the people who are involved in contracting.
And what do you think this new Procurement Act is going to mean for innovation, and particularly for opportunities for public contracting authorities at the local level, local councils, transport authorities, as well as innovators in our supply chains?
Well, I think if you bring in smaller companies, that helps with innovation. I know from my own experience, often you even buy smaller companies because of the innovation that you bring. Also, some of the processes that we're changing are more innovation friendly, so that in future there's more flexible arrangements so that you can work with your contractor, if you're an SME, on new ideas, on research, right through the chain in supply. And so it's not cut up in such a bureaucratic way. And I think perhaps even more important to innovation, the trouble about small companies is they're often up against it with cash flow. And one of the big features of the bill is that the 30-day payment terms will apply throughout the supply chain. So you've got these various different things coming together, which to my mind are innovation friendly. And perhaps even more important is more transparency. So you can go on to gov.uk, you will be able to find out what the future programmes of procurement look like, both in government and more broadly in ALBs and in local government. So I think all these 4 or 5 things coming together are a huge opportunity for innovation, particularly with the sort of training and communication packages that we're putting out ahead of the new Act coming into operation in October.
So training packages is an interesting one, because I think rules and policies aside, a lot of the change is going to have to come down to culture too.
Yeah.
So how do we create the right culture for more innovative approaches to procurement? And what's the leadership challenge here as you see it?
I mean, the leadership challenge is like all leadership challenges, it's actually promoting in your organization. So if you're an SME, or if you're a council or a government department, if you can think, let's use procurement to innovate, to get a more diverse supply chain, including the SMEs that I've been espousing, I think that can make a big difference. There are also the new frameworks which we'll be training in also include sort of sensible key performance indicators, which I think can help leaders to say, well, we need to try and achieve these ends. So I'm very keen on having more UK-based suppliers into procurement, using UK skills. And there will be more opportunities to do that, particularly at the bottom end, where there are certain exemptions for smaller contracts, which I think can, again, help with this innovation puzzle, which I think you in the Catapult are so good. And I was actually going to give a plug for the Innovation Procurement Empowerment Centre. I met its chief this morning, and I think working together, academics, suppliers, contractors, government departments, in the way that I know Catapults do so well, I think that can make quite a deal of difference. I think you also need to speak up if you've got problems. I come from retail, so I believe hugely in the power of the complaint and feedback in improving the company, as it were. And I think we're going to have a unit in the procurement operation at the Cabinet Office, which will be looking at how this works. And so if you have successes, tell us. If you have problems, tell us as well.
I'm not sure I ought to be encouraging complaints, but I take the point that actually raising the issues will get them dealt with.
I mean, in a constructive way.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not in my brief, but I do actually think feedback, the combination of transparency, which we're going to have by having more online, and feedback can really improve public services. And that would be true in my experience of things like housing and transport, which I dealt with when I was on the back benches.
And what's the biggest barrier you see the actors removing for SMEs?
I think probably the most important thing will be this cash flow point, being paid on time, because that would be my experience of running small businesses. You're always worrying about, whether you can get to the year end satisfactorily. I think also having slightly longer term deals can be very good. One of the problems if you're selling services into government, especially if you're a small business, it's often just for a year or 2 years. So you're spending quite a lot of time pitching. So if we can make the pitching easier, but also, have longer term, more sustained contracts, but also more competition by bringing in new people, I think that can make a very big difference. But I think the other opportunity is that we're doing things our own way, so you haven't got quite the same complexity that we had under the various EU regulations, which kind of I've dealt with in my time, and that sometimes have been a little bit frustrating. And I hope that the new regime, especially with the training that's taking place, will be really good. And of course, it extends now to local government. It brings in, I think transport is obviously a big feature of this Catapult. It brings that in. And if we can get procurement right, get things delivered on time, that can make a big difference, and of course can make a big difference to how effective the public sector is in serving its citizens.
Thank you very much. And I promised I'd get you away on time, but we have 1 minute left. So what's your biggest hope from the Act?
I think the biggest hope is to change the percentage of smaller companies, small and medium-sized companies, because medium-sized companies are very big drivers of innovation, that are getting part of the procurement pie. So in the last 5 years, we have actually increased that. I think partly it's around the noise around procurement reform that's made small businesses more interested. But I want that to be a very, very much bigger share. And I feel that is seminal. I mean, you were talking about the cake being £300 billion. Mm-hmm. It's a vast part of the economy. And if we can have more innovation and competition in that, I think that can make a huge difference. And I think, I suppose if I'm allowed 2 points, I think having more of the frameworks online, more transparency in an increasingly tech and online world, which has been a theme, I think, today of every single session, and is certainly key to the work we do in the Cabinet Office. I think those coming together can be transformational.
Fantastic. Well, look, let's hope we see all that come to fruition. Let's encourage those SMEs to take a more active role in the procurement chain. And thank you very much for joining us today.
And thank you, Catherine, because it's been great to be here. I feel terribly sorry not to be able to take your questions, but I've got to be in the Lords for 1 o'clock, and you probably know it's a busy day. Not only have we got 7 votes on Rwanda, I've also got a bill starting after that. So I was determined to come because this is such an important audience, and SMEs are important, but actually even the bigger companies, I noticed there was Amazon Web Services, they've brought in amazing innovation and to help small companies in the way that multinationals can do, as I remember from my own experience as an executive at Tesco. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you.
Thank you.